Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So excited to be with Curtis Wynn, a leader in the cooperative community, CEO for the Roanoke Rural Electric Cooperative, and in the chair for the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association. So good to be with you, Curtis. We're going to touch a number of topics today that's, I think, really important to co-ops and the broader communities. But I really did want to start with the question of how, your journey into the cooperative community. How did you find co-ops?
Oh, well, first, Doug, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to sit down and have a good conversation with you. Something you and I have enjoyed doing here for the last several years. Happy to be with you. It's a pretty long journey. I started in the cooperative business way back in 1981, actually a senior in high school, down where I was born and raised in the panhandle of Florida. There was an electric cooperative there, West Florida Electric Cooperative, which is where I guess I cut my teeth there. Started working part-time as a senior in high school, got the opportunity to work as a truck washer and a warehouse assistant, cleaning the warehouse. Finished high school, went in and spoke with my CEO, Mr. Charles Tybus, at that time, and let him know I was ready for the next opening in the right-of-way department, if he would consider me to start my journey to become a line technician. And he pushed back a little bit and said, look, I got another option for you. We're about to start a 24-hour dispatch operation. Actually a 3 to 11 dispatch operation. And I'll let you have that job if you'll make me a promise and tell me you'll go to school. And quickly took him up on that offer and worked full-time as a 3 to 11 nighttime dispatcher, went to school for 4 years, got my degree at Troy University as a result of that. And there were openings in the professional realm, systems analyst, member services, economic development, went through 2 or 3 different promotions at West Florida. 1981, the opening came up at Roanoke. I raised my hand to the search firm and applied for that job and was successful to become their CEO in 1997. Spent the last several years there. That's where I've been up until this point. As a CEO, we get opportunities to serve on boards, specifically our statewide board and G&T board. There was enough confidence in me from my fellow board members at the statewide association, to elect me to become the representative for North Carolina on the NRECA board. And the board members of NRECA were confident in me enough to elect me as an officer a few years ago, and started out as Secretary Treasurer, 2-year terms, and the last 2 years as NRECA's board president. So that's my journey since 1981 to present. It's been a great career.
That's a great story, and it really makes me think of the cooperative principle around education and training, about how you were both you were fortunate to be at cooperatives that took that principle seriously in terms of providing their staff and their team the tools in continued education, and also as part of the co-op community, you took them up on that, so that's I think a really important piece. I know an important piece of your work over time. I'd like to take just a couple minutes and talk about your term as the NRECA board chair. You've been there for almost 2 years, and it has been a very active 2 years, both internal to your work on the board, and also there's been a lot going on external to the board. And just if you take a moment and talk about some of the things that you're proud that you're accomplished, and proud that NRECA got done in that time, and and then we can talk about what does it all mean for the future. But tell us about your time on the board or on the chair.
Yeah, so it's been a good 2 years. It's had its challenges, of course. as president, I really set up a platform that would encourage all of us as leaders in the electric cooperative space to really just do three things: acknowledge, act upon, and lead through this whole change that's happening. This change that's rapidly happening in the industry. The first year, in the generic sense, really related to the technological and advances, the disruptive forces that are coming in the industry, and the fortunate advantage that we have as cooperative to have a network of partners that are in place that are ready and able to turn these what could be threats into major opportunities.
Right.
So that was the first. That's kind of the foundation for the platform.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, with the onslaught of social disruption that happened in conjunction with this pandemic that we're still experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
Midway through the term, it sort of put this whole idea of change into action, amplifying the need for cooperatives to look at the change that's happening in society today. And so we started really focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion, setting up a campaign around that. As the leader of the board, I felt that it was incumbent upon me to lead that charge and to start that conversation. Hopefully doing that, which would result in some type of permanent marker we could make for the association. And that is actually coming into fruition by way of a member resolution that is really encouraging the trade association to really become quite intentional about establishing and promoting a case study, if you will, that can speak to the value and the business imperative around these whole concepts of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we wanted to also follow that up by establishing some type of framework, to have the definition of what it is and the case study that it's important is one thing, but the next question I would imagine is that co-ops are going to have is, well, I got this. Now, what am I going to do with it? So the next part of that is really to establish a framework that interested cooperatives can use to start putting their own customized DEI program in place at their respective systems so that they can really start to implement some of these concepts. So we're seeing very clear signs of early engagement. Shortly after the discussion got started, NRECA was contacted by the National Human Resources G&T Association, and they suggested a Diversity Champion Award, which we believe will be in place that will debut actually at the 2022 NRECA Power Exchange meeting. And I want to emphasize that new name. The Power Exchange is formerly the NRECA annual meeting. So I just think as president, success should be measured by how we're able to put our ideas and vision into motion and how much traction we think we'll gain in order to continue well beyond my presidency. And what I'm seeing so far is very encouraging that will happen.
Yeah, well, that's, yeah, no, I appreciate both of those things that you mentioned. I mean, I think different cooperative association and CEOs of cooperatives that I've been talking to in these recent years, this acceleration of change that, that we all face, and certainly rural electric cooperatives, like you mentioned, the environment around, the electric generation and distribution and renewable energy is changing and only changing more quickly. And I really appreciate you pointing out that that co-ops actually have an advantage because of the relationship between different stakeholders, the customers, the members, but then also in the rural electric co-op world, that kind of ecosystem of providers that are also co-ops of rural electric co-ops. And I think we got to lean into that as a cooperative community, that advantage. On DEI, who we did NCBA CLUSA and of course Roanoke as well as NRECA are members of NCBA CLUSA, which we so much appreciate. So that as the Apex Association, we've been working on DEI these last 3 years, and this year we're really focused on the co-op identity. The International Cooperative Alliance has chosen deepening the cooperative identity as its theme for the 125th World Cooperative Congress this December, and we're using the opportunity to really put forward how diversity, equity, and inclusion is part of the cooperative identity, part of the cooperative principles and our shared values, and looking for ways to really make sure that people understand and express that, and talk about that later maybe or some other time. But I want to talk a little bit about the future of co-ops in this fast changing world, both in terms of the economy and society. You talked about both of them. What do you see as co-ops, kind of changing role? What role do we have to play, in this economy with all the challenges that we face around, inequality and systemic racism, and then climate change? Where do co-ops play here?
Well, Doug, that takes me back to something I remember my predecessor as president at NRECA, Phil Carson. I can specifically remember a graph he used once in a presentation that showed that we as cooperatives still remain as one of the most trusted entities in our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the characteristics that are embedded in our cooperative principles are really missing in this global community where we live today, which means we have an even greater opportunity as cooperatives to make I think, very positive impacts in our communities. Not only in our communities, but with our economies and in the society at large. If you go to any town or any community where there's an electric cooperative and other cooperatives that NCBA CLUSA represents, you see those entities being looked upon as trusted entities. Mm-hmm. So getting close to home at my cooperative at Roanoke Electric, we call it, our role is really one of which we are responding to the call to serve. That is actually a tagline that's on our strategy map, responding to the call to serve. So I don't think our role changes at all. However, the importance of us remaining true to our principles and serving in the role of community catalyst has today become even more impactful and badly needed than in any other time, I believe, in our history.
Yeah, well, Curtis, I think I have to agree with you. I mean, as people, whether they're community leaders or policymakers or other type of folks, they're looking for some strategies and tactics to deal with the division that we see, to deal with some of the economic and societal challenges. Co-ops are, they're a proven model. It's in their genetic makeup to empower people, in the center of their business and really reflect the values of their communities. So, of course, that's work that you do and that we do at NCBA CLUSA, is try to make sure more people understand that, make sure that the policy ecosystem is there to support people in that work. Talk just a moment about one of your expertise. You got a lot of expertise, and that's energy, right? So actually, Curtis, it would have been, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago that we first came across each other as your early kind of champion of this idea around the what became the Rural Energy Savings Program, that zero interest loans from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to co-ops, to electric co-ops, to provide energy efficiency improvements on homes, renewable energy, and that has really started to gain some traction, thanks largely due to your leadership. I've always thought of it, it's one of the most effective and direct ways to really affect those households, particularly households with lower income in rural places, because when done right, it increases their discretionary, and for them, discretionary income means some better food and making sure that they can pay some medical bills and stuff. So, but can you talk a little bit about you were there close, if not at the beginning. The program's grown significantly. What would you like to see as expanded opportunities under this program, or similar programs?
Yeah, with the RESP and the concept around the broader term of inclusive financing, whether it's tariff-based or not. But this whole model really, in my opinion, obviously from the work that we're doing, we truly believe that this creates tremendous opportunities, not only for, as we continue to look at how it can impact how cooperatives can be more inclusive around the type of benefits that it provides to its member consumers, member owners. But then there's this whole idea and the opportunity for the expansion of our market share. We see disruptors every day vying for a seat at our member owners' tables. They want to become that wedge, if you will, between us and our member owners. So to me, gaining speed to market and increasing our member engagement, these things become more and more critical every day as others try to take our place in our space. It's almost imperative, in my opinion. So having a financing model that can include everyone and get you to the market quicker and have some level of engagement, better level of engagement with our member owners, just makes a lot of sense. Making those upfront investments, as we've done, in energy efficiency and creating what I would call a performance contract with our member owners that guarantees a payback for the investment, along with a positive return on the investment, easily opens up the models for other things. You talk about expansion. I think these, things like demand response and other beneficial electrification investments, which I know you're very much engaged with, they're wide open when we have this model that we've created around energy efficiency, which these programs, in terms of demand response and beneficial electrification, if we are getting good returns from energy efficiency, the ROI in these other programs are even greater. But just put simply, I think if energy efficiency can work as we've shown it that it can, it surely would work for things like electric vehicle charging stations, smart thermostats, and other devices that can work behind the meter. So the true value in all of this is that these investments just give us more visualization to a greater degree and a level of control that we have with these devices, and we can work collaboratively with our member owners to better run our electrical systems. And when we work with our members in a way that can help not only them, but also reduce our cost of operations, it just makes sense. And I think that is kind of the way cooperatives should operate.
I love that. When I got to visit you and your staff in Roanoke, well, almost 2 years ago, just shy of 2 years ago, I remember, and you were showing some of us what showing us what you were doing, and this idea of seeing these opportunities, again, leaning in on the cooperative identity, the fact that you have a member relationship, and increasing the engagement with them can accelerate the adoption, and at the same time meeting your mission as a co-op, which is always serving your members, right? So it's such a great kind of virtuous cycle, I think, as we move forward on this. And then the other part about how, in many ways, what's occurring is the co-ops managing information in a way that's really bringing benefits, right, to the members, so that that commodity that you're dealing with on behalf of members isn't so much just watts and volts, but it's actually zeros and ones, right? It's taking that and making sure that you're doing the very best thing for them, and that has application across a lot of different co-op sectors too, and something we talk a lot about that I think we need to focus on. So we've got new administration, and as we're talking, the inauguration just came in, of course, new Congress. And we're seeing some outlines of some new policy priorities from the policymakers that are there. Certainly one of the things we're seeing is around climate change and you know, maybe some new, and I think say maybe a little bit more aggressive actions. What role do rural electric cooperatives have to play here? You know, obviously this is a long time conversation, and what does this next phase look like?
Well, Doug, I see some consistencies between, from what I know about President Biden's plans around addressing climate change and what many of us are already doing as cooperatives. So I see a very, right now, I don't know how long it'll be there, but I see a window of opportunity for really cooperatives to become a voice, a loud voice and a catalyst for the type of change the new administration wants to make. And hopefully we can be proactive and position ourselves as enablers of his climate initiative in a way that's really beneficial to cooperatives and really actually will create win-win situations for not only the environment, but for our operations as utilities.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I've had a lot of conversations with folks in the last weeks and months about just how critically important it is to have those stakeholders that really have the assets and have the ability to move the needle on some of this stuff, to have them as you know, at the table. And I think that's, you know, incumbent on we as a cooperative community to show up with some solutions, and hopefully the policymakers are, you know, they want to hear us. And we know that policymakers, they're inclined to listen to cooperatives, maybe not agree all the time, but they are inclined to listen because they know that we are truly, you know, grassroots member-based organizations and businesses. So a lot to see there. So I think that covers just the questions I have. I again, Curtis, thanks so much for your time today, and even more so, thanks for your service, you know, to the cooperative community through your leadership as the president of NRECA board and down at Roanoke. And I know there's a lot more good work to do. We look forward to working with you in one way or the other as we move forward. And just thanks so much, Curtis.
The pleasure is mine as always, Doug, as I mentioned earlier, and I do look forward to more of these conversations and getting more exciting work done. There's a lot of it to be done.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Take care. Thanks, Curtis.
Thank you.